Hello everyone, Freemantle here, with 3 social problems and possible solutions. I warn you, the problems may sound like I'm being flippant, but I believe you'll see right away that they have a serious side, and that's what I'm interested in. I'm dead level with you when I say there is food for thought here. Number 1, as per the title of this video, national sex insurance. Something like that would be the name for the solution, I think. The problem is this. A lot of people have trouble getting enough, it seems. And more important, they want to be in love. They keep making mistakes, can't find the one, go through punishing emotional ups and downs. There are people who need help here. Need help. Now surely that's the signal that the government should step in. How could national sex insurance work? Well, it could be what the liberal calls a social policy. That no adult will be denied such support as he or she needs to enjoy a happy, intimate relationship of his choosing. We could set up government-funded dating workshops, government subsidies for one thing or another, psychological counseling, business startups for dating services maybe. In fact, if we really got creative, there would probably be so many different government things we could do for people in so many individual and different situations that what really counts here is the social policy, a commitment by the government and its professional advisors in psychology and other fields, their willingness to do something to help. Does that sound far-fetched? I'd wager that if you look around your city or state, you'd find one or another element of what I've just outlined. Government loans for business, for example, or subsidized mental health services, nothing new about those. The rest of what I've sketched is just a matter of application and difference in degree. The next 2 social problems have a lot more gravity to them. First of the 2 cases. Some years ago, I was walking to an interview appointment when I passed a billboard. It showed a small child crawling on the floor. Above it, in very large letters, the words, "Now there's an owner's manual," and off to the right and below the words, a URL for some state agency website, I forget which one. The social problem I have in mind here. Some kids get off to a brutal start in life. We all know the stories. Vicious parents who stand their children in the closet for hours, beat them up, and so forth. Here's the possible solution. The government starts systematically regulating how children are raised. I'm serious in saying we should think about this in the same way we think about the government entering an area of the economy, and draw the appropriate conclusions. When the question is whether the government should enter a particular industry, we ask ourselves 2 questions, do we not? First question, what's the worst we can reasonably expect to happen if the government does not step in? We reason it this way, do we not? Maybe business people aren't the devil incarnate, but, what's good for business, especially big business, isn't necessarily good for anybody else. So taking all that, taking everything into account, what's the worst that we can reasonably expect if businesses in this industry just continue on their own way and the government does not start regulating them? Second question when we're asking if an industry should be regulated. What's the best we can reasonably expect if the government does lay down some regulations? Many of us would think like this. Government officials and their advisors aren't super people. No, they don't know everything. They can make mistakes. There are bound to be learning curves in some cases. But taking all that, taking everything into account, what's the best we can reasonably expect if the government steps in? What's the worst we can expect if the government stays out? What's the best we can expect if it comes in? Well, the worst we can expect when it comes to raising kids, we just said, the terrible things some parents do to their kids. Surely that shouldn't continue. And the best we could expect if the government does start regulating? Well, if the government has an owner's manual for how kids work, how they grow and develop, the government must know what their needs are, so the best we could reasonably expect is that some kids will get a better start in life than they're getting now. Maybe a lot of kids would. How would a program of federal or state child rearing work? Well, let's imagine. Let's imagine a fully committed program. A couple decide they want to have a child. So they start by going to the government to get permission. sort of like a business license, which is government permission to open and run a business. The government official collects information about their income, their assets, genetic disposition to diseases, their occupations, work history, employment trends in their fields, children already in the home, extended family support network that would be available, household premises where the child would start his life, and so on. The government could draw up a set of standards similar to the federal poverty line we're all familiar with. Standards like projected medical expenditures as a function of probability of the child's developing a health condition he would be genetically predisposed to, or square footage in the home that must be available for a child's use. And if the couple meets the standards, they're approved for having a child. If they are approved, they take a course in child raising, a government-approved course, naturally. They have to get a passing grade, of course, sort of like passing a driving test so you can get a government license to drive a car. Once the woman becomes pregnant, she reports at scheduled intervals to her doctor for checkups on the pregnancy. Additional health services are provided if the pregnancy isn't meeting the standards, or maybe the woman is advised on lifestyle changes she needs to make to ensure a healthy pregnancy, with follow-up to make sure she makes the changes. All of this according to government standards, of course. After the child is born, the parents report regularly on his status. Is the child developing normally, physically, socially? Psychologists, educators, social workers have developed lots of norms that might be used or adapted here. Yearly reports on the child's status, maybe, as we now report our financial condition to the IRS every year. Of course, people can lie in filling out forms, so how about unannounced visits to the home from time to time by government inspectors? I don't know whether social workers do that now, but I've heard of jurisdictions where that used to be done. What do you think? Wouldn't that be a good way to help people, in this case, kids just starting out in life? Why should parents and would-be parents make all the decisions about raising their kids? Think of the terrible things that happen to some children. Aren't we obligated as a society to do something about that? It does take a village, after all, doesn't it? You wouldn't object in principle to a program like the one I just sketched, would you? I mean, a lot of details would have to be worked out. Some of my ideas might not be so good, but as to principle, you're not anti-child, are you? You don't hate kids, do you? Well then, you'll certainly go along with such a program, right? Is there anything I have just said in this government child-rearing scenario that is inconsistent with liberal principles, with the philosophy behind the welfare state? Last social problem for this video: poverty in our society. Here's a plan for eliminating it. Well, first we have to identify the poor people, of course, and let's say we use the federal poverty line to help us do that. And the welfare state's pretty good at keeping track of people, so we use government agency client lists and tax records and so on. Anyway, we identify all the people in America who are poor. Let's just suppose we can do that. Then we kill them all. When we get done, no more poverty in our society. Occasionally, somebody might fall below the poverty line, but as I say, the welfare state government is pretty good at keeping track of people. So suppose we spot those people and we kill them too. This is a plan not only for eliminating present poverty in our society, but for getting rid of it permanently. No more poverty, ever. Now, suppose we went to the liberal with a plan along that line. And suppose he figured we're serious enough, and he takes us seriously enough, so that he gives us a serious reply, not a half-ass one. How do you think he'd respond? I submit he'd say something along these lines. There may be 10,037 different things we could do to eliminate poverty in our society, but that is not one of them. And the reason is that it would be completely immoral to do that. It's out of the question. It's morally wrong. We're not even going to think about doing it. End of discussion. Now, if you are serious about doing something about poverty, then what you have to do is come up with one or more of the 10,037 different things, and then we'll have something to talk about. That is how the advocate of a free society responds to social problems and ideas to solve them, like national sex insurance or the government's taking over child rearing. Those ideas are no good because they all approach the problem by using objectionable force, coercion, threats, the strong arm of the law, intimidation, fear, punishment to achieve the goal. In 2 words, liberal government. The idea for solving the poverty problem is even worse, but along the same line of using force against people to solve a problem. Now, the liberal might say, how are social problems going to be solved if liberal government means aren't used? The answer is some other way. No one can say in any great detail what all the solutions to all the social problems in a free society would look like. It's not possible to say in that detail what a free society looks like, any more than the liberal can say in detail what all the government solutions to all his social problems would be. We can only compare problem-solving methods. And there, we can say that a free society maximizes the use of the most powerful tool there is for solving social problems. A free society minimizes political regulation, control, restriction. And in doing so, it maximizes the use of creativity. The creative act, by definition, can't be predicted, no matter whether a man or a machine is acting, and it is creative acts that solve problems. By maximizing the play of creativity, freedom is the most powerful device, the most powerful engine there could be for solving social problems. Thank you for listening.